Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about schedules. So, if you, first of all, no changes. So, if you are finger on the pulse, got everything down, then there will not be news for you in this video. But it's good to get it out there every now and then, mainly because a lot of people, even long-term fans, just will have missed various announcements or information about this. And also, every month or so, there's 2,000 new people, which is crazy to think about. And if I don't put up a new explanation, then they probably will have to just feel it out. So I'll probably do an update or probably just restate this stuff every 2 months or so, just so that the people, the many new people that are coming in will just be have some chance of becoming aware, but only if they actually click the video and all that. So I'm going to talk about everything schedule related. I'm going to talk about the video output, the daily videos. I'm going to talk about the daily streams, and then I'm going to talk about the Patreon schedule and how that stuff works. So we're just going to cover all of it. So every single day, and these are Pacific times, by the way. If you don't know how to convert to Pacific time because you're not in Pacific time zone, no excuses. This is you have the internet. You're watching this on the internet. Educate yourself. It's useful information to be able to do time zone conversions in a global society and everything. Alright, so first off, 11 a.m. is the RPG slot. Right now we're doing Pathologic, or more specifically Pathologic Season 2, because Pathologic has 3 campaigns that you play through where the 3 characters have parallel events and entirely unique quests. No overlap in quests, which is astonishing and impressive, but also means the game is very long. When I say RPG slot, a bit of a wide net there. It really is virtually anything even related. I'll even count 0451 games like immersive sims sometimes, but this is my exciting slot. This is the slot I like to play around with. It's weird, the state that this slot has on my channel. It's pretty much consistently the least viewed thing on my entire channel, which is a surprise because I've been playing RPGs non-stop on this channel since day one. So you would think that my audience would have come here for them in the first place and would be excited about them, but they're easily the least popular thing that I do on the channel. So I guess I've just been getting popular for other reasons while happening to play RPGs. Y'all are just here for the Witness and Dark Souls, aren't you? I know you are, and Abduction, puzzle games, and Souls likes. Oh well. But the lack of view just means I have more freedom to fuck around with this genre. And boy do I have so many plans. So many plans. Every time a game in this slot ends, it's like I'm in a candy store and I get to pick the next thing. But it's also stressful because whatever I pick, I'm probably going to be playing it for 3 months or 6 months. It is a very not common choice. But I've got so many plans. I want to play the original Fallout games. I want to play Old Republic 1 and 2. Maybe even eventually, if I would test the waters and the idea of doing the Old Republic MMO. But that's, I don't know, MMOs are rough. Because for similar reasons I've been thinking about, but also leaning away from Secret World, because Secret World is supposed to be full of neat quest design and some cool stuff, but also it's an MMO, and playing MMOs alone is a weird one. But I also want to play I want to go back and do Dungeons and Dragons, the Temple of Elemental Evil, which is the first CRPG I ever bought, and I made it 0% in and bounced off and was like, what was this? No, because that was when I was young and didn't understand what CRPGs were. I thought isometric RPGs were like Diablo, and so when it wasn't like that, I couldn't comprehend it. But now that I'm a D&D fan, I want to go back to my OG CRPG purchase and try it out for real this time. Then you got stuff like Vampire the Masquerade or Anachronox or Arx Fatalis or the original Deus Ex games, or Divine Cybermancy. I'm happy to go full weird with this. Alpha Protocol, Dragon Age 1 and 2, Jade Empire. Baldur's Gate, obviously. I have a Planescape Torment, right? Don't get too excited. I know I might get you excited with some of you people, those of you that watch the RPG genre. The big problem here is that I finish things I start. Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. That's like a 1.5-year project, isn't it? I finish stuff I start, and it's a problem because that means every time I pick a new thing for this particular time slot, we're stuck with it for like 6 months sometimes, which I'm happy with, but just the opportunity cost in the back of my brain. I'm like, but I want to play that, and all those things I just listed that I'd like to play, that might take 5 fucking years. Oh my god. Because the genre, every game in this genre is so long, and if you place them all end to end, yeah, this time slot will have things for me to do in it indefinitely. Basically, it's rather self-sustaining. That's not even counting new games coming out, like that are coming out. What was that one? There's one, I think the guys that made Bound by Flame and other games or something are making some sort of like witchery looking one where you play as like a Western dude fighting like druid monsters or something. I've lost the thread, but like new games come out in the genre plenty, Pathologic 2 and so on. So I'll be busy forever and constantly agonizing over the games I'm not getting to. Anyway, then at noon Pacific time, 12 p.m., we have Let's Tries. That is a daily one-off video for a different game every day. It's a time slot that's inspired by the fact that I get so many video games in my inbox, just indie developers and whatnot, just sending in codes, trying to get people to try out their game, and I get so many of them, and especially because I'm somebody who actually finishes games I start, and any given time slot might only get to pick one new game per month, even in the faster time slots. I just can't cover that many games, because I do finish what I start. So having a nice preview time slot where we can just try out a whole bunch of different games every single day is great. It makes it possible to cover a bunch of these games that I would never get the chance to cover because of the fact that they would, like, each individual one would take forever to cover. Even the shorter ones where people are like, this game's only like 4 hours long if you want to finish it. Like, people say almost every single day on the daily Let's Try, like, ooh, it's not that long if you want to finish it and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, but if I finished it, then that would be a whole week. Oh, just that one alone, or 2 weeks, or 4 days. Like the speed at which they inflate on time immediately, like you quickly get right back to the original problem of not being able to cover everything because of how long everything is. So yeah, it's a chance to do one-offs. I have a really mixed strategy here, and it's all over the place. First of all, I have a Patreon slot where people that do the $25 pledge, this is full right now, but every now and then somebody might leave. Basically, they get to look through my entire Let's Tries list, which is like 400 games, and they could be like, do that one next. And so then, like, I'll be covering games based on their request, but that's only 10 times a month. The other 20-ish times are all my choice, and then I've got a variety of things going on there. Right now, I'm alternating. Basically, at the beginning of the month, I'll alternate between my choice and a Patreon choice, and that kind of covers like the first 20 days of alternating, and then for the end of the month I'll just be doing whatever I want with none of the alternating people in there. I try to front load it so I have to make sure I get it done. Sometimes I will select something just completely by random by spinning the wheel. Other times I'm picking just the new hotness, like whatever's the freshest thing in my inbox, and stuff like that, or promising looking interesting projects that I don't think I'm ever gonna have time for, or sometimes I just do a grab bag of weird games that I'm not even particularly interested in, but I'm like, screw it, let's go. And I'll like sometimes I'll even do like 3 games in one video, just like rapid fire style. Sometimes I'll try to make a series out of it, like Keith Sucks at Fighting Games. I have so many fighting games backlogged that I'm doing like a mini series of me doing fighting games specifically. Sometimes I'll batch them together based on some kind of gimmick and stuff like that. I'm kind of just doing whatever I feel like, and a lot of it's completely arbitrary, but a lot of the stuff on this channel in general is. But people like this slot. It generally does well. I think the main thing is that it's a chance to see something new every single day. So it does better than the average episode of any particularly long series because it's like a part 1 every day, and part 1 of a Let's Play does better than the rest of a Let's Play, generally speaking. So it's good to have this cycling random thing, and it also gives you guys a chance to see games that you might want to buy, which is kind of the point of, you know, them sending me the codes in the first place, is to give exposure to said games, and then you can be like, I'm gonna play that, and then you just go in the link in the description, you can check it out yourself, and I probably won't, because there's so many video games, my god. That's not to say that something's doomed if it ever becomes a Let's Try. It's technically possible that a Let's Try can later become a Let's Play, and I would just convert the Let's Try into being part 1 or something like that. It's happened a couple times before, but it's very uncommon, so don't expect it necessarily. But when it's time for me to pick the next game in a particular slot, I might be thinking of a game I already did a Let's Try of, and I might go back to it. It happens sometimes. Then at 12:30 we have the daily bonus video. Essentially, it's multiplayer. These go up whenever I have them. If I don't have them, they just won't go up, and there just won't be a 12:30 slot. There's no chance of that happening anytime soon because I have so much backlog. Right now we're doing Dark Souls Remastered, Airships whenever I get around to editing the next 2 parts of that, World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth, Monster Hunter World, and 428 Shibuya Scramble. Basically, I just do these 2-hour-ish multiplayer sessions with my friends from time to time, and I just upload those. In fact, when I get to the stream schedule later, we'll be talking about that in particular, because that's usually where these videos come from in the first place. These are essentially stream VODs with better audio processing and sometimes editing for stuff that requires more editing. But it's just multiplayer stuff. It's me with Wanderbot, or Andrew, or Bird, or Durf, or anyone else for our multiplayer sessions, or Marty and Nick for our various multiplayer sessions. And I usually put up the entire session as one video. And because we tend to stream on a daily basis, it's pretty much just the rate I put them out is just the entire session as one video, and I still manage to have backlog anyway. You notice Andrew's in there now. I'm largely grouping him with that stuff. We don't have a weekly meetup schedule. He now lives on the other side of the world. We do occasional things. We're doing occasional stuff right now where I stream a game to him and we do commentary on that while I'm playing, is what we've been doing so far with Shibuya Scramble. And I don't know when that'll happen, or how often that'll happen, or what rate it'll happen at. And I'd rather not do what I did before with Zero Escape, mainly because I don't think there's as much risk of people spoiling the mystery and getting defensive and stuff like that the way that they do with Zero Escape. Because the moment we criticize anything in 999 or Zero Escape, people immediately start spoiling the ending of the game to defend it and shit like that, which is why we intentionally pretty much finish recording those things before we even start uploading them, so that we're so far ahead that the spoilers are still behind us by the time they come up. But nowadays, I think Andrew's not going to probably inhabit the normal video game, the normal Let's Play time slots of the daily half-an-hour videos that are consistent, because our schedule is not consistent, and it's just going to take whatever form it happens in. So he's going to now be inhabiting the same slot as Wander and the rest of the multiplayer people in the daily stream VOD thing, even though we don't really stream his sessions, but you know, that'll be in there. So if you see stuff like Shibuya Scramble, it'll go up when it goes up, and it'll probably be a longer video each time, 90 minutes to 2 hours. Right now these are vaguely on a 3 to 4 day loop, basically. Just basically whenever the availability is there, it's there, and the videos will be going up. And whenever I edit something, I kind of just cycle it so that whatever has gone the longest without an update in that particular playthrough, that gets priority for being uploaded first. And it's vaguely a cycle, so any particular series tends to get updated every 4 days or so on a loop, basically. That's kind of what that is. 1 p.m. is the Patreon slot. We'll get to that. I'll get to the schedule about how that works during the scheduling stuff. But basically, if you are a supporter on Patreon, on any tier, really, you play some kind of hand. You play some kind of role in choosing what this Patreon slot is. So every day at 1 p.m. I'm playing that current Patreon game. Right now it's BioShock, which is ending. We're actually currently in the process of picking the next one. So you're a little late if you wanted to hop on now, but if you hop on, you'll be able to help pick whatever comes after the game that came after BioShock, basically. 2 p.m. is Zero Escape right now. It is not a specific slot. This is my freedom zone at the moment. It's one of my free areas where I can just pick a game and there's no particular expectations or structure to it. 3 p.m. is the puzzle game / adventure slot. which means point and click adventure games basically, or puzzle games. And the net of meaning there can be pretty wide, but it's just the general thing. Right now we're playing Unavowed, which is a point and click adventure game from Wadget Eye Games that's turning out to be pretty neat. But yeah, this is in place specifically because I'll get into slots later actually. 4 p.m. is Yakuza 4. Boom. That's the end of the schedule. It's also an open slot at the moment, so there's no particular rules for what goes there in the 2 or 4 o'clock slots. It's just kind of games that are happening. So let's talk about slots now the schedule's over for that part. The idea is basically that I want to maintain certain kinds of content on the channel at a daily basis and be aware of my audience demographics, more or less. And so that manifests primarily, like I originally started the puzzle slot because I got a bunch of people showing up for like The Witness and Abduction and other puzzle games, and so I'm like, cool, I like puzzle games. It kind of goes against the common sense of running a YouTube channel or running a Let's Play channel, the idea of playing puzzle games, because partly because like if you dip your toe in the pool and try a puzzle game, your audience tends to respond very poorly to it. Puzzle games are generally considered boring to watch and frustrating to watch. People get angry when they see you play puzzle games because they're like, oh my god, how is he so blind? How is he so stupid? I saw that 10 minutes ago and blah blah blah. And then I get that every day, but I just do it anyway because provably and numerically people do support and enjoy the puzzle game content despite the incredibly douchey comments that they usually inspire. So I've been sticking it out ever since The Witness basically did well, and it's just been a consistently enjoyed part of the channel. And one of the issues is that when you're running a channel, it's often tempting to always play the hot newness all the time. You'll see this on many people's channels. What's that? Spider-Man just came out. God of War just came out. We Happy Few just came out. I better start playing that right now as soon as possible. And this constant demand to chase the big hype game that's happening any given week has a tendency, and I experienced this in the past on my channel too, it tends to flood everything else out, especially since the hot new AAA game that everyone's talking about, they're not short games. Like, they're not short games at all. Like God of War and We Happy Few and Spider-Man, I don't think any of those are short games. They're all like dozens of hours long, from what I've heard. That means like that any one of those games will take up a time slot for like a month or two, just single-handedly. And so if you keep chasing whatever's new and hot all the time, that will fill every single available slot of your entire channel, and there won't be time for anything else. And so that's why I specifically want to keep things alive for the RPG part of my audience and the puzzle game part of my audience. So I have designated slots to keep those genres alive, where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever happens, I don't give a fuck that God of War just came out. We just finished a puzzle game, so tomorrow's new game in the slot will be a puzzle game. And I stubbornly stick that out, and then the puzzle stays alive, because it's not enough to just have the best intentions. I've found it's not enough to just be like, well, I want to play puzzle games, so I'll try to find time for them, because in the moment, if you don't have a rule, in the moment you could be like, well, but everyone really wants me to play God of War, and then you let God of War in, and then everything gets crushed out of your schedule, and then before long your idea of what genres you want to cover quickly disappears as a result. So I'm very stubbornly sticking to these two time slots in particular, especially the puzzle one, because there's like, if I don't make it a consistent slot, there will never be a right time for puzzle games. And in part also, sometimes there's new puzzle games, but sometimes they're not. But I have like a backlog of like hundreds of older ones to go back to, and there's like there's the Myst games, and there's the REM games. Yeah, REM, Enigma Prison, the Samorost, the original Samorost games, the Go franchise, the Blackwell series, all the old Wadget Eye games, Escape Goat. I'm just scrolling now. Submachine, any new games that come out in the Cube Escape series. Let's do a select all real quick. Yeah, I currently have 184 puzzle and adventure games listed in my category. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, some programming games, Zachtronics games. They're not necessarily new, but it's kind of an evergreen genre for my audience. So just sticking it out, it tends to work out just fine. So that's why I have a designated slot. You might you might see some hypocrisy here, and there is. In a moment of weakness and hype, and to be fair, also because it felt good, I let a slot die, so I'm gonna have to try to bring that slot back when I get a chance. I think. I don't know. I'm a little mixed on it. I had an indie slot, and it's gone now. It's gone. But we also went from 6 daily playthroughs to 5 daily playthroughs, mainly because I was trying to give myself a break, because I'm already doing Let's Tries and multiplayer on top of that. So I'm like, no, 6 playthroughs is too many. Let's go down to 5, because I'm already kind of doing more anyway in the form of Let's Tries and multiplayer at this point. So I've gotten mixed feelings a little bit, because I had an indie slot, and that's where stuff like Hollow Knight and Death's Gambit and stuff like that would go, is just non-stop indie games. But I'm a little mixed on that, because that would make 4 of my 5 Let's Plays slots. And that would take me down to only 1 free slot where anything goes. Because then I'd have an RPG slot, a Patreon slot, a puzzle game slot, an indie game slot, and then the 5th slot, basically. We'll see. I might still bring it back, because I do like having a dedicated indie slot, because there are so many indies to cover. And I do have an entire indie category on my spreadsheet, which has over 100 games listed in it. Stuff like Ash of God's Redemption, Battle Chef Brigade, Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon, Death's Gambit, Cultist Simulator, Far Out, Elia, Downward Spiral, Horror Station, Iconoclast, Paratopic, Subnautica, Spiral Scouts, Way of Life, Black the Fall, All Walls Must Fall Into the Breach, Shrouded Isle, Raven Remastered, Tacoma, West of Loathing, Always Something Monsters, Dark Mouse, Deadlight. Oh, I see. Delete that one. I already did that one. Click. Yeah, there's just Off, One Shot, Kentucky Route Zero, Jotun, Subsurface Circular, Tiny Metal, Concrete Jungle, Flow. Might not technically fit that genre, actually. Gods Will Be Wanted, watching Blackwood Crossing. Isn't that a? Might be wrong. Shrouded Insanity, Teslagrad, Orwell, the Penny Arcade Games, Rain World, I Am Alive. So many games. So I might bring back the indie game genre, just because I got backlog, man. The Messenger, Hero U, Rogue to Redemption, Grey Dawn. There's so many of them. What the fuck? How does anyone cover all these games? So I might bring back the indie slot. We'll see. But that's the daily schedule in way too much detail. Oh my god, it's been over 20 minutes. I can't do this. I'm so bad at this, because I always want to explain things instead of just say the things. Because somebody else would be like, here's a 30-second interstitial thing that just pops up the information. I might just show all the information on the screen the entire video, so people that don't want to listen to me talk about it will just be able to read it instantly, I guess, and then not have the context for what it is if they don't want it, I guess. So next up is stream schedule. I stream basically every night these days. Monday nights is World of Warcraft. That's because that's the day that Bird is not available, so the Bird Derf Wander group does not happen. So what we do instead is it's me and Wander and Shell and Batbeard Games, who's actually a local. We meet up and do World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth from like 8 p.m. to midnight. That's the new World of Warcraft expansion. We do like a 2-hour stream, 4-hour stream, and then I split that into like 2 videos to come out in the multiplayer slot, because 4 seems a bit long. But that's our 1 time a week to play at the new expansion, because the rest of the time Bird's around, and we're doing the Bird Derf Wander group, which lately we've been playing Monster Hunter World every night. That's Tuesday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. That's just the rest of the weeknights, 7 to 9. We're playing Monster Hunter World. We might randomly sub out to do other things. We were previously playing Dark Souls. We've done a bunch of other things. We might play more Brawl Out. We might play more Hot Lava, or any particular thing we happen to feel like on a given night, but we tend to be dominated by one game most nights. And right now we're in the middle of doing Monster Hunter World, so a lot of that's happening. Then on Saturdays, we have this is a little wishy-washy, but we have scheduled 6 to 10 p.m. Dungeons and Dragons. We kind of start and stop whenever, so oftentimes we don't start until like 7 p.m. because Wander's like prepping things and we're hanging out in Discord and chatting, and sometimes I'm streaming it and sometimes I'm not, because I don't want to necessarily stream like an entire hour of not playing D&D when people are expecting D&D, but I also do stream some of that because I want to give people a chance to see the notification and join before the session starts. But we're really inconsistent about our starting time. We usually stop around 10 p.m. because that's when Bird has to go, so we plan around that. But that's our D&D series. If you haven't found that, look up Grave of Man on my channel. It's very long. We've been going for a while. We're currently in season 2, or whatever you want to call it, or no, series 2, I guess, which is Shattered Planets. But it's a sequel series to Grave of Man, featuring the same characters, and it has continuity and everything. Grave of Man itself arguably had 3 seasons, but it's pretty arbitrary. We pretty much declared a season finale whenever a major thing happened in the story that was going to have, like, let's say, earth-shattering results, and then Wonder would have to recalibrate the story, and we'd be taking a break for a week or two. Then we'd usually be like, ha, season finale, because something big and crazy happened. See you next time when we figure out what's happening in the story next. So we had like 3 seasons of Grave of Man, and now we're in Shattered Planets, which is Season 4 or Series 2 or whatever. It's arbitrary. It's all one. It's just D&D. Although we did switch from 5e to Pathfinder / Starfinder because we're in space. I'm not sure if that was the best call, because I feel like we could have done most of what we're doing in 5e regardless, and converting has been rough, but that's what we did. Sunday has variability to it. We might do a 6 to 8 p.m. World of Warcraft leveling stream with me, Marty, and Nick, where we're playing as gnomes, just going through like the vanilla content from the beginning. It started because they added the scaling world patch to WoW, where everything was going to scale up to you, like in Guild Wars. So we were going to give that a go. We're like level 40 something, I want to say now. That happens like every other week or every 3rd week or so. It's basically whenever I can wrangle the group, because they're not consistent and stuff. That's 6 to 8. But then after that, at 8:15 p.m. on Sundays up until 10 p.m., the normal multiplayer group meets up for a little less than 2 hours. So that's just more Monster Hunter or whatever we're doing that given night. That's the Bird Durf Wander group from 8 to 10 on Sundays. That's the stream schedule. As far as common questions or whatever about streaming, people ask me why people every single night there'll always be like, Keith doesn't read comments or something like that, and people will tell each other that. I'm like, I mean, first of all, I do read comments. I read 100% of the stream chat. I have it open on the other screen, and I do read it. But really, the only thing it's going to do is that if there is pertinent information being provided by chat that helps us with the situation at times, like we're confused. Like, there's been moments, like, for example, where we're confused and trying to find something and we can't quite find it. Then somebody in chat points out where it is, and then I'm like, ah, the person in chat pointed out where that is. Then that's something that I'll take into account. But 90% of stream chat is somebody saying hi, or rattling the cage and being like, acknowledge me, acknowledge me, acknowledge me, and then being like, he doesn't read stream chat. I'm like, that's not, you didn't really give me anything. It's not like I was provided with like a topic to discuss it or anything. You just want me to say, you just want me to greet everybody as they come in, and it's like, that's, I don't think, first of all, I think that's bad content. Obviously people disagree. All the big YouTube, there's tons of big streamers everywhere that are, have like, oh man, someone donated me $5, now Snoop Dogg is dancing on the screen and air horns are playing and stuff. I find all of that stuff agonizing and don't consume any content like that, and so I produce content for people like me who want what I want. So I don't want that, so I don't do it. So I don't sit there and just talk to chat all day saying like, hi guy, hello username, hello other username, ha ha ha, thanks for the donation, thanks for the pledge, thanks for subscribing, 12 months. I don't, that stuff just dominates the commentary of people on streams. And but like I'm there for like the gaming content, not the running a business content, which is what that is. Like, it feels like it's just somebody just like I don't know, it's been a weird thing. Like it's like celebrity telethons became the most popular form of media for children lately, because that's what this is. It's like people like if you pledge money to me, you might get a chance to talk to. If you donate money to child cancer, what, you might get to talk to George Clooney, and that kind of thing is like, I guess that's what the business model is now. But I think that's, I just think the content's bad, and so I don't want to make that. But also there's the additional level of there's 4 of us all at the same time, and we're all streaming. If we spent the time talking to our audiences, first of all, we're all talking to 4 separate audiences at the same time. And also, that would be all of the commentary. There would be no time to have jokes or play the game. It would just be 4 separate people talking to their 4 separate chats the entire time. Like, multiplayer streaming is kind of incompatible with constantly doing shout-outs and calls to actions and thanking people for donations and saying hi to every individual person that wants you to say hi to them and stuff like that. It's just not a good idea on any level. And that said, it's good for me to point out here, I'm not a big fan of streaming. I don't see myself as a streamer. I don't really go out of my way to stream. The entire reason I'm streaming is basically because everybody else is streaming. And there was the constant question of like, why isn't Keith streaming? Why isn't Keith streaming? Why isn't Keith streaming? Everybody else is streaming. And like, and on some level I get it. It's like, people might want to open up my perspective and be able to watch the different perspectives or something like that. And it is weird to be the only person in a multiplayer group who's not streaming, which was the case for a while. Like I didn't stream when we were doing Satellite Rain and stuff like that, because I just didn't really like streaming. In the history, I don't really like the live experience. How do I put this? It's like everyone knows that YouTube comments kind of suck a lot of the time. People are just kind of rude and backseat gamey and condescending and just patronizing and just not nice to the person that they're watching, even though they presumably like their content. And that happens plenty during live streams too. So historically, I find that it is kind of best if I just don't interact with the audience during streams, because oftentimes if I'm actively interacting with the audience, which happened before in a number of previous games, I don't respond well to it, because it's like getting YouTube comments live. Like the nice thing about making YouTube content is that the YouTube comments are not arriving while the video is being made. You record the video, you edit it, you upload it, and then like 3 days later when it's available or whatever, like, oh no, somebody's bothered that you didn't find that button on the wall or whatever. But like, I find it actually really rough to deal with like constant backseat gaming and rude comments like while streaming, because then it's live. So encouraging that and interacting with it just makes it worse. And I think I've had a couple of ugly moments during like Fall of the Dungeon Guardians and No Man's Sky, which were streamed, and I was interacting with the audience back then, where I just make an audience member feel bad publicly, but when I respond to them, which, I mean, they're being rude, but also I am the person with the audience, and it's just not a good thing in general. I don't know how so many people do that stuff when they're doing it as their job. I can only imagine that it's to some extent there's a fakeness involved, like this like plastered on smile, like ho yeah, how's it going everybody, that is not my content. That's not how I do things. That's not how I approach things. You guys generally get the real me all the time. Not the completely 100% unfiltered, genuine, like naked, exposed entirety of me all the time. It's obviously I'm still presenting, and no one's completely genuine and honest about absolutely everything all the time, even in normal daily life. But you get the normal daily life me to some extent, and so if people are rude to me, I do get rude back and honest, and I will totally buckle down and argue with people, which is what you guys have seen plenty in the comments sections or on Discord and stuff like that. So I think responding to chat and encouraging that kind of thing to happen during live streams just makes the content worse. Because like I think it's best to keep that stuff, if it's going to happen, in the comment section or on Discord and not in the content itself, because I think that's only going to create a negative cycle. because yeah, I will totally buckle down and argue with people on the internet, even on my own YouTube channel, because it's like, I'm just being me, and I'm just being honest, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing and stuff. This is becoming a podcast about my schedule, motherfucker. This is what happens when I try to explain everything. But hey, all this detail is actually a decent ad for my the next thing we want to talk about. So let's talk about my Patreon schedule. So first of all, this thing I'm doing right now, where I'm doing this big long explanation of everything and going on side tangents and everything, is actually a show I do. This wasn't really planned as being like a segue, but I guess it works. I have a Patreon series every Saturday that's a Q&A series. People that are on my Patreon can just send me messages on Patreon as a question, and I'll pick some of them every week. Working through my backlog right now, and I'll just hang out and play Diablo 2, just answer questions at extreme length. Like this, like if you look at this was just like, hey, this is like somebody asking me what my schedule's like, and I'm making a 40-minute video about it and going in great detail and having personal asides and exposing things about my thought process and other shit like that. That's basically how I answer a lot of the questions in general. If you really strike pay dirt, I might talk for like 90 minutes about your one question, podcasting about the various related subjects and stuff like that. That's something that everyone on the entire Patreon has access to. Even the people who pledge no reward, because it's a thing that's set to patrons only. The people that have no reward, meaning that they don't get involved in the credits or the voting, also still see the Q&A series. I do have a backlog of questions I'm trying to work through. I'm trying to prioritize people who have not had a question answered yet, but I'm trying to get through that. People who don't have Patreon might be a bit miffed by this idea that I've said before I wouldn't do paywall, like hidden behind paywall Let's Plays, but you're playing Diablo 2, and I get that, I do, but like I'm not talking about Diablo 2. I'm not even listening to the dialogue. I'm skipping through it all. I'm just clicking my way through the game and fighting and loot grinding and just complete. I am beating the game more or less. I'm near the end of Act 3 already, so I'm technically playing through a game and talking, which is on some definitions a Let's Play, but I'm not talking about the game or even really paying attention to the game, aside from very occasional moments like, ooh, the Horadric Cube. I'm really just focused on the questions and clicking through the game. It's mainly because it's a familiar format for you guys to consume. It's you guys listening to me talk while I play a video game, so it's compatible. But also it's how I'm used to doing commentary when I'm alone. It's just hanging out, playing a game, and talking at great length, as opposed to like sitting here staring at a wall. Because that's the alternative, is to stare at a wall and talk, because I'm just sitting here in this room otherwise. I can do a podcast while talking to other people, but this is essentially a solo podcast, so it's a continuation of the Q&A with the Side of Games series that's publicly available on this channel, that it's been defunct for a few years, I want to say, or a year or so. It's basically that series revived, and I'm currently hours and hours and hours and hours into it. You cannot complain for lack of content, for sure. It is like 90+ minutes of video content every week delivered to everyone on Patreon, in addition to the other things that I give you for being on Patreon. Being a patron also gets you in the credits, so all the people in the credits are the Patreon subscribers. That's probably self-evident. Different tiers give you different color in the credits, but also have additional meaning to them. If you've seen all those people that are white in the credits, those are the $1 and up patrons. They are the ones who can vote on what the next Patreon game is. The yellow people are the $15 patrons. They can nominate what the next game is. And then the $25 people are orange, and there's only 10 of them total, because I don't want them to take over the entire Let's Try slot. But those are the people that can pick from my Let's Try list which one to do next. And so those are the three colors, if you've seen them in the Patreon credits and so on. That's what those mean. I've already covered the Let's Try slot more or less, and it's also full, so it's not really relevant to learn about it right now. But that's what the orange people are. There will always just be 10, probably, I think. As far as the schedules go for Patreon, I've already covered the Saturday thing. Time of day is variable. It kind of goes up whenever it's ready. Generally speaking, I record it on Friday, edit it Friday night, it renders overnight, and then Saturday it's getting uploaded alongside that day's videos, and it's just kind of ready when it's ready. And once it's fully processed, I'll be like, hey, it's up, and so any time from like 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. or something, I might be like, hey, new Patreon Q&A videos up. That's a hidden video, so it's technically on YouTube, but you guys can't find it unless you are being linked to it via the Patreon post, and the Patreon post is only readable by people who have pledged at least $1 on Patreon. But hey, it's $1, and like, it's $1 is a crazy upgrade if you want to support me, because it's likely that if you watch my content for years, you might not generate a single dollar for me individually via ad revenue, because ad revenue is not good. But you can just give me $1, which I don't know your world. Some of you, that's a lot of money, and some of you that's like not a lot of money, that's like negligible money. Giving me $1 a month is real consistent. And I love $1 patrons, because one of the things is that the $1 patrons are way less fussed about how much money they're giving me, so they're likely to be long-term consistent patrons. So if I have tons of $1 patrons, then I'm like, okay, I don't have to worry about my Patreon income being volatile, because the lower the pledges are, oftentimes the more willing people are to just let them sit for a longer time and not question, oh, should I still be giving them $1 this month? I don't know, it's a whole $1. Like, people usually aren't that concerned about giving $1 to the YouTube channel that they like, and so I don't have to worry about it spiking up and down constantly when people are like, I gave them $15 for a few months, but time to stop that, which is like a little more chaotic and scary when that stuff goes around like crazy. But yeah, like ad revenue is garbage on YouTube. So if you support your favorite people on YouTube by buying their merch or supporting them on Patreon or something like that, you are a super audience member already at that point. Like, you are having such a bigger impact than the other 99% at that point, just because you gave them $1, because of how bad ad revenue is. People still use ad revenue, and I still use ad revenue, because it does still make a consistent amount of my job, amount of my income. It's not, I can't just throw it away out of principle like some people do when they're really big. But it's just a bad, the ratio's messed up. Like, the only reason I can make an income based on ad revenue is because I get hundreds of thousands of views, as opposed to like my Patreon, which is like, hey, here's a couple hundred people. Like, the ratio there, if you think about it, is nuts. That, like, those people give me more money, to be clear here. Like, the people who support me on Patreon currently make me more money than my entire YouTube audience does, which is like next level crazy to think about. I'm trying to bring it up real quick so I can compare the numbers for you guys real quick. So in the last month, I got about 900,000 views, and I have 300 patrons, and I make like 50 or 60 or 70% more money on Patreon than I do on YouTube. Think about that. 300 people make me more money for my income than 900,000 views. I have to specify views, not people, because people watching multiple videos, including those patrons, count as that total. So it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's a real big difference regardless, and that speaks a lot. Like, the fact that I can get like 1 million views and that makes me less money than 300 people supporting me on Patreon, that is informative. And so if you hear me pushing Patreon and stuff like that, it's because of the fact that, like, that's where I can grow, especially since I focus on doing full playthroughs and RPGs and puzzle games. I'm not chasing the hype. I'm not chasing what's popular with the kids all the time. So Patreon's the way to go as far as my career goes, because my channel does continually grow. Every month I have more views and more audience members than I did last month, and I'm always making progress there, and I'm proud of that. But I do not go viral. I am not exponentially growing in some crazy way, and so if I want upgrades to happen in my life, it's not going to happen because of my YouTube growth. It's going to be happening because of my audience. there are some upsides to that. Wanda recently said that he lost 1 million views when school started. Like the moment that school started, his monthly viewership dropped by 1 million. Admittedly, he has like 4 million, so he's way bigger channel than I am because he appeals to the kids. But the number of kids he has in his audience was really apparent when his viewership dropped by 1 million the moment all the kids had to go back to school. In my case, when everyone went back to school, my views dropped by 0.79%. I was like, oh fuck, wow, it had no impact. That's incredible. Like that, it was really informative about our audience demographics. To see him drop by 1 million, which is only a quarter of his views, but still, he dropped by my entire channel's worth of views, basically, at the moment people went back to school, and it had no impact on me. I think that's why my Patreon is more successful, also, to some extent, is just the fact that, like, I have an older demographic of audience members, because I play games about thinking, and games about morality, and games about intense long-term story development. Like I do play, I'll play an RPG for 100 hours. I'll play a game about pushing blocks around and stuff like that. I'll play logic puzzle games, and I'll play Myst, and I think that all this appeals to a much older audience, and that's probably the people I attract. I don't do memes and shouting, and I don't do the Snoop Dogg dancing stream shit. I don't mug for the camera. I don't have a face cam. I'm not screaming. Like, I think everything about how I run the entire channel appeals to older people, and I think that's probably why I have a really irregular amount of Patreon support and why things are going well for me, despite the fact that I am not a big YouTuber. I'm not a big YouTuber. I've never been a big YouTuber, and I don't know how many years in the future it'll be before I have a self-sustaining amount of YouTube audience, but it hasn't mattered because I've had Patreon support that has been like, we're just gonna make you a successful YouTuber anyway, and that's basically how it's been going. So I can get away with uploading a video of Pathologic that gets less than 300 views and just going for that for another 100 episodes or whatever, because, you know, my audience apparently supports me enough that they'll pay it for it. But anyway, back to schedule, because I'm really off topic now. Yay. Yeah, there's the weekly Patreon Q&A video every Saturday. That's the only thing about Patreon that is regular and consistent, and we had a vote about that. We used to have a monthly Patreon series, but the problem there is that Patreon games in general don't cleanly fit into the concept of a month. So what do you do when the audience nominates Far Cry 4 or Horizon Zero Dawn or Morrowind? Like, do I have what I did back with Far Cry 4 is I played half the game in 1 month, and then I put up a vote. Hey, do I cancel Far Cry 4 or do I do it for another month? And the audience, by a relatively narrow margin, did vote to renew Far Cry 4 for another month. So it was not canceled, thankfully, which I would have been bummed out by that because canceling stuff bothers me. But it's the Patreon subscribers, what they want to do. Then Horizon Zero Dawn is an even longer game than Far Cry 4. It's like, fuck, no, guys, So that panic mode happened. So then I put up a vote. What should we do, guys? Should we have a monthly Patreon series, or should we have just end-to-end Patreon series, basically? And the audience voted to do it that way. So we no longer have a Patreon a monthly series. Now what happens is a Patreon game is selected, and then I beat it, and then we pick a new one. And that just loops. And so you guys might get to vote on a Patreon game 3 times in 1 month if the game's short enough, or you might get to vote on it once every 3 or 4 months. It can go anywhere in between based on how long the winter is, basically, at any given time. And that's just the way we've been going with it, and people seem to like that better. I like it better because I don't have to worry about having an unfinished playthrough on my channel because the audience just gets bored and decides to stop it or something. And it means we were more flexible, because now you don't have to worry about it, like because it went both ways. Like if in the old system, if you voted for a long game, it might get canceled and never get finished, and that's a scare. But also if you vote for a really short game like Tacoma that might be like 2 or 4 hours long or whatever, then like aren't you getting less value as a Patreon subscriber if the game is over in a couple days and then you wait a whole month to the next one? So I think the new system's better, but the downside is the new system is confusing, and so people will like join my Patreon during the finale of this of the playthrough to try to vote for the next one. It's like, oh, we already picked it, dude. Sorry, because I want to have the games run where like the finale is one day and the premiere is the next day. Because otherwise, if I had like it's voting week, then that'd be like a whole week of no playthrough between each of them, and I think that's also not good. So I think it's best to have them run end to end. But here's how the schedule works in order to make that work. In order to make that work, I have to, first of all, I have to beat the game in advance. I try to beat the game, like, whenever I get the sense that I'm kind of getting near the end of a Patreon game, I kind of, like, binge that one a bit. And so I try to beat the game, like, a week before the finale would air, basically. So I have it all pre-recorded and edited and uploaded, and like, okay, cool, I know when the finale will be. Then I rewind the calendar. So 5 days before the finale, that's when the nominations start. And what that is that everybody who supports me on $15 or more, everyone in the $15 tier and the $25 tier, they're all nominators. And so what happens is I send the messages individually, and they can go to a place to fill out a thing to request what game they would like. And there's not a lot of limitations here, but it does kind of need to have to be a game that I can access. It hasn't really been a problem, so it's really, I've not had to put my foot down or really discuss this, but basically I will send somebody a message and try to figure them out and try to talk to them if there's something wrong with their nomination or something. But I've only really had to do that a couple times. Usually it's because actually they're just not specific enough about what they want. Like they'll say God of War, and I'm like, do you mean the original God of War or God of War 2018? And it's like confusing stuff like that, and it's like, did you mean did you mean God of War 2018? Because it's not even out yet. There's been a few confusing times where people nominate, or like they'll just say Tomb Raider. I'm like, which Tomb Raider? Doom, which Doom? Like, people are bad at naming video games, and as a result, the Patreon people have to be more specific, and so they have to like say Doom 2016 or something, or Doom 1993, because I need to know which one you're nominating, that kind of stuff. Also, sometimes multiple games of different franchises made in different decades but in different countries will have the same name, and you're like, oh fuck, which one did you mean? That's usually what I talk about with people. Almost never has anyone actually nominated a game that I can't easily access. Usually because the stuff that's fresh on people's mind is usually games that are new-ish, or they're games that are on PC, or they're games that have an HD remaster, those games win Patreon a lot. And obviously if it has an HD remaster, then clearly I can play it. I have access to this console generation, the previous console generation, and I've got a PS2, but that's kind of limited to what games I have for that PS2, or what I can find on short notice. That's where things get messy, but it hasn't really been a problem so far. So 5 days before the Patreon finale happens, the nominations begin. People get 48 hours to do the nominations. Then 2 days later, which is 3 days before the finale, or I guess, yeah, 3 days before the finale, that's when the voting begins. The way that works is that all the people that nominated the games are now in the vote. And so the games that were nominated 2 days ago are all put into a big poll, and I make this big complicated post where you can see all the trailers for each individual game and stuff like that to inform yourself about what they are and things like that. And you can just vote for all the games you want to play. It's a check all that apply poll, because otherwise there'd be vote poisoning or whatever the term is called, where two similar candidates can hurt each other, like when people nominate like Final Fantasy. Like, oftentimes you'll see Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 7, and Final Fantasy War of the Lions, and if I had to pick one, then they'd all be dooming each other to lose. But because I have check all that apply, people can pick all of the Final Fantasies if they want to, and give them all equal chance of winning. So that's the system I go with. That happens 3 days before the Patreon finale. Then the Patreon finale happens, and then the next day, the new Patreon game starts with that little dramatic poll with music playing, and it shows the winner, and then we reveal who the winner is with like the thumbnail that hides what the winner is for the first day to like make it a fun little event and everything. That's how that whole schedule works. I try, as soon as I know this schedule, I post it. So as soon as I know when the finale is going to happen, I rewind the clock and figure out when the vote will happen and when the nomination will happen and so on, and I make a post on Twitter. And this last time I also did it on the community hub of YouTube, which I think might only be visible on mobile. And I make the post on Patreon itself announcing the dates as best I can. And those also, much like the other stuff, will happen anywhere between like 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. basically. is when that stuff goes up, more or less. And that's because I'm busy and I'm multitasking, and this is all a shit show. I'm one person running everything, and I have to be in multiple places at once sometimes, and it's a mess. As an example of that, because I fucked up and thought this was going to be like a 5-10 minute little thing, and I've apparently been talking for like an hour, even though I think a lot of this information is useful and people who watch this whole video will be more informed about my channel as a whole, and whether they wanted to be or not. And this, I think I have been largely putting out useful information and so on. Because this took longer than expected, the multiplayer and let's try video of today have not gone up yet. I'm looking at it's 1:15 p.m. right now. I'm like, oh fuck. The let's try was supposed to go up an hour ago, and the multiplayer video was supposed to go up like a half an hour ago, and I've been doing this because I thought I could fit it into the schedule. So once I'm done recording this, I have to then edit the thumbnails and upload and set those videos. They're already uploaded, but they're not set to go live because I have to do all their metadata information and titles and thumbnails and everything. I have to set all that shit up, set them to go live, then come back and edit this video to render it, to give out the information about how my channel works, then upload that. It's a big mess. So if any of this schedule stuff you're seeing here doesn't happen as it says it's going to happen, a video doesn't go up on time, a stream doesn't happen some given night, or it's late, or it's at a random time, it's all because I'm just a person. This is not a company. This is not an office. I don't have employees to run things. I'm one person and I can't be in multiple places at once. Sometimes I'll be like drive an hour away to go cat sitting to help my take care of my mom's pets when she's out of town and stuff like that, or I'll have errands to run, or groceries, or I'll oversleep because I had trouble sleeping last night or something and I'm trying to be healthy and whatnot, because that's something that I thankfully can do due to the fact that I don't have hourly wages or hourly hours, daily hours, that's what I meant to say, or whatnot. Any random thing could happen that shuffles all this up, but this video tells you what I'm trying to do, at least. Anyway guys, thanks for watching like always. Please consider supporting me on Patreon if you would like to. I'm planning on making a move to change my living situation, so any support is really useful. We also have a new, we also have a new tier, a goal. If I reach 2,000 a month, I'll start making VR videos. I'll order a big bad scary VR headset and we'll start making some of those. In particular, I'm kind of excited about what no one else is excited about. People are all like, ooh, this immersive VR game, or Resident Evil 7, or all these other things. I'm like, VR escape rooms sound fun. That's what I'm looking at. Also, the people that made Sexy Brutale, that game where there's like a murder mystery thing where everyone was dying in a mansion, but you had to solve all their murders by looping time. They also made a game like that for VR. They made a VR thing. It's not Sexy Brutale VR, but it's also a game where murders are happening along a timeline and you have to stop them. I don't know why they made the same premise twice. That's weird, but they made another game like that for VR. So that's on my list of things to get to if I can ever get a VR headset. But it's a big cost to sink. But I think it's a decent incentive to dangle of like, hey, you help me, I help you. We can all work out, right? Because if I have an income of that high, I can justify in my budget making the splurge on 1 month's income for the VR, and then because I know I'll make it back in long term at the very least, or something. But anyway guys, thanks for watching like always. Thank you for your continued audienceship regardless of whether you support me on Patreon or not. And I'll see you next time, and I hope you understand what the schedule is better now. Who am I kidding? No one watched this. This was an hour long. This is a mess. I'm terrible at this.